Marvon Wilkinson, trusted GTA Realtor. I rigorously study the real estate market and stay ahead of the game to get you the best deal. This is the first of two back-to-back videos, and this one explains inflation in simple terms. The second video explains why inflation affects interest rates the way it does today. For instance, a loaf of bread that was priced at $4 last year now costs, I don't know, say around $5.20, and this means that the $4 you had saved under your pillow this time last year is now $1.20 short of what you need to purchase that same loaf of bread today, and that's due to inflation. In Canada, inflation is primarily measured using the Consumer Price Index CPI. Put another way, inflation, measured by the CPI, reflects the cost of living. So how does this all work? Well, Statistics Canada, a Canadian government agency who are mandated to produce stats on the Canadian economy, society and environment, they have defined which goods and services a typical Canadian household will buy for their general survival, such as certain foods, clothing, housing, healthcare, etc. Now, this list of items is placed into a pricing basket representing the goods and services that Canadians spend their money on. So, what are some of the items in this basket? Let's take a look. This chart gives us a good indication of what Canadians are spending their hard-earned money on. Highest on this list we can see is shelter, and that includes factors like mortgage payments, rent, home renovation and maintenance costs, home insurance, property taxes, and shelter is consistently the largest contributor to CPI, i.e. inflation. Now, Statistics Canada collects price data for the items in the basket on a monthly basis. These prices are then thrown into a complex formula and spit out a Consumer Price Index, CPI. Canada's central bank, the Bank of Canada, then takes the CPI metric and uses it to measure the rate of inflation by comparing the percentage change in the cost of the basket in 1 month to the same basket in the previous year. For example, if the CPI was 100 last year and is 103 today, that's 1 year later, the inflation rate will be 103 minus 100 divided by 100, 3%. The Bank of Canada also calculate variations of CPI like CPI trim and CPI median, but to keep this simple you don't need to worry about that. Okay, so now that you know what inflation is and how it gets calculated and by who and when, hop over to my last video in this series where I explain how and why inflation affects interest rates the way it does today. See you there.